Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So in this one here, I want to talk about Norman Reedus' comments. He actually made some comments a couple of days ago regarding an Endgame spin-off, or I guess an Endgame movie, or however they would do it anyways, with all the Walking Dead characters, I guess, reuniting, and yeah, I guess just like one final story with like all of them sort of together or whatever. So yeah, before we go any further, make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. I just posted my review for House of the Dragon episode 2, and I also did talk about Comic-Con in my latest Walking Dead video where I go into like sort of what to expect and all of that. I did a poll on the channel, and as of now I only see that there's been 86 votes. I mean, yeah, I just posted this like literally like a minute or two ago or something, but actually here, I'll refresh it quick. So yeah, I see 108 votes now, and as of now, in first place, people are wondering about a Rick and Michonne new story update the most. Second, which is very close to that, is the Daryl Dixon season 2 official trailer. Then afterwards, very far away, is sort of the Dead City teaser trailer, and then a possible new spin-off announcement. So when I look at that, I think, yeah, Daryl Dixon season 2 and the Rick and Michonne next story update, people are really excited for that mostly. And then after that would be Dead City and the new spin-off announcement. I think with Dead City, you just got to see the trailer. You just got to see a lot more from that story. And yeah, obviously the next story here is Daryl and Carol. People are really excited about that. So that's why that's a little bit more exciting as of right now. But I also will be doing a Q&A video on Wednesday. So if you want to take part in this Q&A, go and join the Discord. The server name is Appetite for the Dead. The link will be in the description of this video. You can post your questions there on the Q&A tab, and yeah, I'll get to those questions on Wednesday. So Norman Reedus actually said in an interview here with AP Entertainment, he talked about The Walking Dead and, you know, crossing over into like other spin-offs, or I guess like an Endgame sort of like Marvel movie type of thing. And, you know, at first he talks about like, and I already talked about this in the video, but he talked about, you know, he's been with this character for so long that he just wants it to end right. And he also goes into the whole thing of like, you know, TV audiences are different than movie audiences, because with TV audiences, you know, you're there every single Sunday and people like to sort of watch you age, and they'll stay there and they'll watch you year to year, right? Whereas I think with movie audiences, it's very different. They want to see a conclusion quicker, you know, and I think, yeah, just with TV show audiences, like you're in there for the long haul, right? Like I just think of like soap operas in general, like Days of Our Lives and all of that, like really strong viewers just sort of in general throughout the years. And it's one of those things that just kept going and going and going, right? So like it's a thing, like it does happen all the time. But what I found really exciting though is when he actually talks about you know, them doing some sort of like Marvel type of movie just in general. Like what he actually says here is, you know, there's a lot of talk about that. There's a lot of talk about doing like a Marvel movie type thing where we all sort of meet up. I don't know. Who knows? I don't know. I mean, part of the show is who we lost. You know, maybe seeing a grave of Rick Grimes might be more popular than seeing Rick. I don't know. It's a part of the show, a loss. So having everybody come together, maybe, I don't know. I'd have to read it. I don't know. So yeah, when you see his comments there, it is kind of hilarious because yeah, like the thing about the show is like everybody does sort of always lose something, and you're always constantly losing people or just losing something in general, right? And I think the idea of everybody reuniting and coming back together just in whatever format that would be is a little like, wait, how is that going to play out? Or how, you know what I mean? I do think in terms of it being a movie, I don't know how I feel about that. Like, just being honest, I don't know how I feel about them doing a movie. I mean, first of all, what I will say in terms of the whole loss thing, I get it. Like, that is a part of The Walking Dead. But what people really like is when characters have been just lost for so long, or they're experiencing all this pain, this and that, and then they get that moment of hope, and then all of a sudden things just go their way, and it's so exciting, right? Like the second Rick and Michonne saw each other, it was amazing. It was just a moment we were waiting for years, right? It's gonna feel like that with Daryl Dixon season 2. When Daryl and Carol see each other for the first time in a long time, well, it's probably been like a year or so, but when Carol actually gets there, and then when Daryl learns some stuff about Rick and all of that, that's going to be so exciting for season 2. And so people like these moments. Like those hopeful moments are amazing. Like, yes, there's a lot of loss, a lot of craziness, and that stuff's always fun, but doing things like that, people do like. So Daryl seeing Rick Grimes' grave, I mean, first of all, he literally just like wrote off Rick Grimes. Like, how's Andrew Lincoln going to feel about that, right? I don't know. I think that reuniting all the characters, everyone wants it. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about that, and I like that that is sort of the next exciting part to all of this, right? Like everyone is sort of looking for a direction right now. That is kind of the direction, is reuniting all of the characters. That's the next big thing. That's a lot of the talk right now. And I will say it's kind of cool because a lot of the talk has come from us specifically, right? We've been talking about this. We've been talking about this whole like Endgame scenario, like having everyone come together, reuniting, and like there's this final threat, whether it's like variant walkers or whatever. It's been all of us talking about all of that, and it's created all this excitement. And now Norman Reedus is being asked about it, right? And even Scott Gimple was asked about that, I believe, a couple of months ago. So it's crazy because that is where the fans are. Like that is the next thing. I don't know in what format or how it's going to happen, but that is the next thing that people are really excited about. But let's talk about that. Let's talk about the format of this Endgame scenario and, how it should be done. I touched on it before. I don't want it to be a movie. I really don't want it to be a movie because it's just sort of a one and done thing. And yes, for me personally, if there's going to be a premiere, like an LA, red carpet premiere, I will go to that to watch that, get my review and all that out. Like I'll totally go out and just do all of that, right? But the thing about that is it's not like I'm not doing the reviews and talking about the show with the Walking Dead family. You know what I mean? Like that's such a huge part to the Walking Dead that I feel like they're starting to understand as well, is like the fans really like to talk about this show. And that's why, dropping all 6 episodes, or if it's going to be 8 episodes eventually, just all on one day, people don't like that because you just watch all of it, you talk about it for like a couple of days, maybe a week, and then all of a sudden it's just not that exciting anymore. It just kind of goes away. And Walking Dead fans love to theorize about stuff, love to talk about things week to week, and a movie is just sort of that. Like, yes, the trailer for it would be exciting. It would be so cool to see a Walking Dead movie in the theaters. I would love that, but I really like, having it week to week, a whole discussion. It makes sense. It just, like, to me, doing a limited series, another one, but make it more than 6 episodes, because 6 episodes, I've seen it now with the spinoffs. It's not enough to tell the whole story. It really isn't. Like, the spinoffs so far, yes, I've enjoyed them, and it's been really great. They've been better than the Walking Dead original series, at least the last however many seasons, but it's just, you can explore so much more of the story. You can do so much more with the characters and with like the side characters and all of that. If you just added 2 more episodes or 4 more episodes, make it 10 episodes, right? Like I would just love to see a little bit more, because the 6 episodes, it's just like, the first 3 or 4 episodes are good, but then all of a sudden you're like, oh, we're at the end of the season, right? So I want there to be 8, because then once you get to like that 3rd, 4th episode, then you're like, well, we're only halfway, right? So that's what I want. Personally, that's what I want. So a movie for an Endgame scenario, I don't think would really necessarily work out, because especially the way The Walking Dead tells its stories. The Walking Dead is a very slow-paced story. It really focuses on the characters having one-on-one time. It doesn't rush through a lot of scenes, right? Like we get these scenes of characters talking for like 5 minutes straight, that the next scene might be them walking somewhere to like this one place. It doesn't, like, I think for a movie it can work. You can tell that story, but I just think with what we expect from this story, a movie would just be rushing it way too much. Like I look at The Ones Who Live, all 6 episodes, and I'm like, imagine that being a trilogy. Like I just don't know how they would make that a trilogy of movies. Like it wouldn't really make sense. Or if all that was in one movie, it would be even way more rushed than what it was, right? So a limited series of like 10 episodes, I think, is what you would need to do. And I think it is something that is going to be happening. Like, honestly, the whole talk of this as well, I do feel like a part to me feels like it caught Scott Gimple off guard, because I know they have been like planning on like reuniting the characters, but the whole Endgame scenario, I think that is something that Gimple's like, he has plans. He's leaving like breadcrumbs here and there to sort of build up to a moment like that, but you just sort of take it season by season, and can we build up to that story, right? And let's just see what happens on the way, and hopefully we do get there, right? So that's the plan right now, but it's kind of cool to see Norman Reedus just so excited about it and being like, well, yeah, like it would be so cool. He would have to read it and see, what it would actually be. I will say the impression I got from this, though, is that if they were to do an Endgame series, it would be separate from The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, and it doesn't necessarily mean that Daryl Dixon needs to end. That show can go on for 10 seasons if it wants to, but doing the Endgame series seems like it would be separate. Like Daryl's just gonna like leave the show for a second, or not leave the show, but it would just happen in between seasons kind of thing, right? Like say it happens in between season 5 and 6 or 4 and 5 or whatever it would be, right? Like it would just happen in between seasons, and then he would just go back to his show afterwards, and it would just be a different story at that point. To me, I really do like that, because I think Norman Reedus is enjoying playing the character of Daryl Dixon like on this show and actually really having his own time with the character here. So yeah, really exciting to actually hear him talking about this, and I'm excited for whatever this Endgame scenario is going to be. Like in terms of an actual announcement of this, I really think we're so far away from that. Like I think the announcement of anything like that means that they would have to have already planned everything out, and they have to know, you know, what's happening with Rick and Michonne, what's happening with all these characters here. And the spin-offs just started, so I think they're going to wait a couple of years before they eventually get to something like that, which I think is what we all expected. Like, who all expected this whole Endgame story to come out in the next, like, year or two, or even 3 years? Like, if you expected that, you really don't know The Walking Dead, because The Walking Dead takes a long time to actually get to things, right? Like, The Ones Who Live, you know, that took 6 years to come out. Like, they like to flesh a lot of story out and really spend time in, like, certain moments and certain, like, eras of the story. So I think that's why, you know, this Endgame scenario, I feel like if anything, it's going to be out in like 2028 up to like 2030. Like that's sort of the range I have, because I also think Rick and Michonne are going to return before that in like a new series. And because there's so much more story to explore there as well. You want to see more stuff with Rick and Judith. Like there's a lot of story to tell still there, that if you just jump to this Endgame story, you're ignoring a lot of stuff that you could have possibly explored. So that's why, to me, I know that we are eventually going to get to this point. We're going to be building there. And that's the thing, too. We're going to see it beforehand. We're going to see, like, oh, this story's building here. This story's building to this. Oh, I can see how this is all going to connect. We're going to see it a couple of years beforehand. And that's sort of what Gimple has said. Like, he's leaving breadcrumbs here and there. And then eventually we can just, like, you know, eventually get to that point where we can do that story. And I personally hope it's a TV show. I hope it's 10 episodes, and it's just like this really amazing, like, you know, story that ends basically everything here in terms of like this whole arc or whatever. And maybe that happens in 2030. If that happens then yeah, awesome. But we'll have to wait and see, you know, I guess what happens at that point. I mean, 2030, it sounds so far away, but it's only 6 years away. It's technically 5.5 years away, which is less than, you know, when Rick left the show. Like, yeah, but this was exciting. I never actually saw this interview here. Again, I'll leave a link down below if you want to go check out the article here. I noticed that, or actually it's not an article, it's like a video segment that AP Entertainment actually shared on their Twitter. So I'll leave a link to it here. The Walking Dead World on Twitter actually posted it here, or I guess retweeted it. So yeah, I'll leave a link down below to that. So go and check that out. Hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.